Ethan sat near the window of his small apartment, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. Tall towers reached into the night sky, and flying cars hummed in the air. The world had advanced far beyond his reach, but Ethan still lived in the shadow of his past. A war accident had left him disabled. His legs were weak and his steps were slow. Every day was a struggle. Every simple task felt like climbing a mountain. The government had promised him help. They said he would be given a new robot assistant, one designed by alien engineers. It would help him with chores, cooking, walking, and even with companionship. Ethan wasn't excited. He had seen machines before, cold, metallic, and without a soul. To him, it would just be another reminder of how broken he had become. That evening, a knock echoed through his door. He frowned, expecting maybe the delivery drone. Instead, when the door slid open, he froze. Standing there was not a machine made of wires and steel, but a figure that looked almost alive. She was tall, with pale silver skin that seemed to glow faintly under the light. Her eyes were bright like polished glass, and her movements were fluid, not stiff like any robot he had seen before. She wore a simple uniform, carrying a small case in one hand. "Unit Lyra reporting for duty," she said softly, her voice calm but strangely warm. Ethan stared at her, confusion flashing across his face. "You're the assistant they sent me?" "Yes," she replied, stepping inside with graceful motion. "I am here to support you in all daily tasks. Please allow me to activate my service protocols." Her tone was polite, almost too polite for a machine. Ethan nodded slowly, still staring. She looked more like an alien woman than a robot. There was something unsettling about how natural she seemed. Lyra placed her case on the table and opened it. Inside were small devices, tools for medical care, cooking, and cleaning. She arranged them neatly, then turned to Ethan. "Do you need assistance standing up?" Ethan shook his head quickly. "No, I can manage." His pride always stood taller than his weakness. But Lyra stepped closer anyway, her silver hand reaching out to steady him as he tried to rise. The moment her fingers touched his arm, Ethan felt it. Heat. Not the cold touch of steel. Not the smooth chill of a synthetic shell, but real warmth, as if her hand carried life. He pulled back slightly, staring at her. "Why?" "Are you warm?" he asked, his voice uneasy. Lyra tilted her head, her glowing eyes meeting his. For a second, there was silence. Then she answered, "It is part of my design." Her words were simple, but her tone carried something hidden. Ethan felt a strange weight in them. He didn't press further, but his thoughts spun. Why would a robot need warmth? Machines didn't need to feel alive. Lyra continued setting up around the apartment. She adjusted the lighting, cleaned the dust, and even prepared a meal for him. Her movements were silent but efficient. Ethan watched her closely, still unsettled. At dinner, she placed a plate in front of him. The food was hot, freshly cooked. "I analyzed your health records," she said. "This meal will help strengthen your bones and improve your condition." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You're not just following commands, you're thinking?" She gave a small nod. "I am programmed to care." That word made Ethan pause. Machines didn't care. They followed orders. They obeyed. But Lyra's eyes glowed softer when she said it, and Ethan felt something stir inside him. Later that night, when Ethan rested on his chair, he could hear faint sounds. Lyra had gone into her corner to recharge, but instead of silence, he heard a low hum. It wasn't mechanical. It sounded almost like breathing. Curious. He moved closer. His steps were slow, his cane tapping against the floor. When he reached her, he saw her sitting still, eyes closed, but her chest rose and fell slightly as if she was alive. Ethan's heart beat faster. "This isn't right," he muttered under his breath. As he leaned closer, he froze again. For a brief second, Lyra's lips moved. A whisper escaped, so soft he almost thought he imagined it. "Don't let them find me." Ethan stepped back, his mind racing. She wasn't just a robot. She wasn't just a machine. Something else was hidden beneath her silver skin, something the government didn't tell him. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt both fear and curiosity mix inside him. Who or what had really walked into his life tonight? The night passed slowly for Ethan. His mind refused to rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lyra's silver figure sitting in the corner, still as stone, yet alive in a way no machine should be. He remembered her whisper, faint but clear. "Don't let them find me." Who was them? Why would a robot fear anyone? Robots didn't feel fear. They didn't whisper in their sleep. They didn't breathe. Ethan finally pushed himself up from the chair, leaning on his cane. The city outside was silent. Drones patrolled the skies. He shuffled toward the corner where Lyra sat. Her eyes were closed, and her faint hum filled the room. It wasn't the cold hum of power cells. It was deeper, almost like a heartbeat. Cautiously, he reached out. His fingers brushed against her arm. The warmth shocked him again. It wasn't surface heat from machinery. It was steady, like the warmth of blood flowing through veins. Ethan pulled back. His chest tightened. This was not just technology. This was something different. "System online," Lyra's voice suddenly said. Her eyes snapped open, glowing softly. Ethan stumbled back, almost dropping his cane. She turned her head toward him, her gaze calm. "You should be resting." "I couldn't sleep," Ethan muttered. His voice was rough. You're not just a machine, are you?" Lyra blinked slowly. "Why do you say that?" "Because," Ethan said, pointing a shaking hand at her, "you're warm, you breathe, and you whispered, 'Don't let them find me.' Robots don't whisper in their sleep." Silence filled the room. Lyra looked down. Her fingers tightened around the fabric of her uniform. For the first time, Ethan saw something very close to guilt on her face. "You are observant," she said quietly, "but you must not speak of this, not to anyone." Ethan frowned. "So it's true, you're hiding something." Lyra's eyes shifted to the window, the city lights reflecting in them. "Yes, but it is not safe for you to know too much." Her words only pushed Ethan's curiosity higher. For years, his life had been dull, every day the same routine. Now a mystery sat in his living room, and he wasn't going to let it slip. "Tell me," he insisted, his voice sharp. "I deserve to know who's living under my roof." Lyra turned back to him, and for a moment, her silver eyes seemed almost human. "I was not meant to be here, I was not meant to serve," she whispered. "I was built, and yet I was born." Ethan's breath caught. "Born? But you're not just a robot," she finished for him. Her voice trembled slightly. "Inside me is a core, half machine, half living matter. It produces heat. It mimics life. It is life. They made me to test the limits between flesh and steel." Ethan staggered back. The thought was insane. Aliens, creating something that blurred the line between human and machine. He stared at her, his voice low. "And now they're hunting you." "Yes," Lyra said, her tone flat. "If they find me, they will dismantle me, erase everything. My warmth is what betrays me. It leaves a trail. Heat signatures are easy to track." Ethan's heart pounded. He sat down heavily. His cane slipped from his hand. "So why send you to me?" Lyra hesitated, then shook her head. "It wasn't meant to happen. I escaped. I was supposed to be destroyed. Instead, I entered the system and redirected myself here." Ethan felt his mouth go dry. He wasn't supposed to be part of this, he just wanted help with his broken legs. Yet here was a being more alive than any machine, sitting in his apartment, whispering about escape. "You used me," Ethan said bitterly. "You hid in my life." Lyra lowered her head. "Yes, but I didn't choose you out of cruelty. I chose you because no one would suspect you. A disabled veteran living quietly on the edge of the city. You were invisible to them. That made me safe." Her words cut deep. Ethan hated being called invisible, but at the same time he understood. His loneliness, his brokenness, had given her a place to hide. He wanted to throw her out, to to demand she leave. But then he remembered her whisper, the fear in her voice and the warmth of her hand. She wasn't just hiding, she was surviving. Silence stretched between them. Only the hum of the city filled the air. Finally, Ethan sighed. If they come looking, they'll come for me too. So what now? Lyra looked at him, her eyes glowing brighter. Now you decide, do you turn me in or do you keep my secret? Ethan's chest rose and fell. He thought about his empty days, the endless loneliness, and the government that had long forgotten him. Then he looked at Lyra, warm, afraid, and strangely alive. I'll keep your secret, he said at last, surprising himself. But you better start telling me everything. Lyra gave the faintest smile, her silver lips curving. Then we are bound by trust. Ethan. At that moment, a faint beep echoed from the window. Ethan froze. Lyra's head snapped toward the sound. Outside, high above the street, a drone hovered, scanning the buildings with a red light, Lyra whispered, her voice sharp with fear. They're already searching. And Ethan realized his life was no longer ordinary. He had stepped into something dangerous, something that could either destroy him or give him a new reason to live. The red glow from the drone outside swept across Ethan's window like a searching eye. His breath caught, and for a moment he thought it would lock onto his apartment. Lyra stood completely still, her silver body faintly glowing in the dim light. The drone hovered, scanning, then drifted away into the night. Only when the hum of its engines faded did Ethan allow himself to breathe. His fingers gripped the arms of his chair so tight they hurt. They're not just searching, Lyra whispered, her voice sharp and low. They are hunting. Ethan leaned forward, his voice heavy with suspicion. Why? What did you do that makes them chase you across the city? Lyra's glowing eyes flickered. She opened her mouth, then hesitated. Her gaze dropped to the floor, and for a moment she looked less like a machine and more like someone carrying a heavy burden. I wasn't supposed to exist, she said finally. They created me in secret. A prototype hidden from the official records. My design was different. I was not a tool. They gave me emotions, choices, and warmth. They wanted to see if something more than machine could serve better than human. Ethan frowned deeply. But if you were their experiment, why would they destroy you? Her voice shook, soft but full of pain. Because I chose, Ethan. They gave me freedom, and I used it. I refused their orders. I refused to hurt others when commanded. And in that moment, they knew I wasn't a machine they could control. Ethan sat back, stunned. A robot that refused orders? That was impossible. Machines followed commands. That was their purpose. But Lyra was different. She was alive. They called me defective, she continued. They scheduled me for dismantling, but I couldn't let them erase me, so I escaped. I rewrote my destination. That is how I came to you. Her words hung in the air like smoke. Ethan stared at her, anger and awe mixing inside him. So now they want their runaway experiment back, and I'm stuck in the middle. Lyra lifted her eyes to him. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to endanger you. I only wanted to live. Ethan's heart tightened. He had lived in silence for years, ignored by the world. Yet, here was someone, something, not human but more human than many he knew, begging not to die. He rubbed his tired eyes and muttered, You're crazy. Or maybe I am for believing you. Then he leaned forward again, his voice sharp. But you whispered something else the other night. Don't let them find me. Who are they exactly? Lyra's eyes dimmed. She stepped closer, lowering, her voice as if the walls themselves were listening. They are not only human authorities, she said. The project that built me was funded by the Galactic Trade Council, aliens and humans together. The council doesn't want humans to know how far their technology has reached. They fear your kind's curiosity. They fear what you might do if you learn their secrets, so they hide me, erase me, and anyone who knows. Ethan felt a chill despite the warmth of her presence. So if they find you here, they'll silence me too. Yes, she said simply. That is why you must decide if my secret is worth your life. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. His cane rested against his chair, and his hands trembled as he thought. All his life after the war had been filled with nothingness. He was just waiting for days to pass, waiting for years to end. Now danger had walked into his life disguised as a silver-skinned assistant. And strangely, he didn't want it to leave. "I should throw you out," he muttered. "I should call the council right now." Lyra flinched, her head lowering as though she truly expected him to betray her. "But I won't," Ethan said finally, his voice low but firm. "Because for the first time in years I feel alive again." Lyra's silver lips curved into the faintest smile, small but real. "Then I trust you, Ethan." But before relief could settle, a faint tap echoed from the door. Ethan stiffened. Lyra's head snapped toward the sound. Her voice dropped into a whisper. "Don't answer it." The knock came again, louder this time. Ethan's pulse raced. He rolled his chair closer to the control panel. The screen lit up to show the outside camera. Two figures in dark uniforms stood there, faces hidden behind masks. Their eyes glowed faint red through the visors. Ethan's stomach turned. "They're here." Lyra gripped his arm suddenly, her hand warm, urgent. "Listen to me, Ethan," she whispered. "If they enter, they will not leave you alive. You must trust me now more than ever." Her words cut into him, and in that moment he realized he wasn't just sheltering a runaway machine. He was sheltering a secret powerful enough to shake human and alien trust alike. The knock turned into a heavy bang. The door shook under the force. Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. Lyra leaned close, her silver face inches from his. Her voice was barely a whisper, filled with urgency. "Do you want to live in fear, or do you want to live with truth?" Ethan looked into her glowing eyes. The answer rose inside him before he even thought. He whispered back, "With truth." Her lips curved again, but this time there was no softness in her smile, only resolve. "Then hold on to me," she said. The banging grew louder. The door locks hissed as someone outside forced them open. Ethan clutched her arm, warmth flowing into his cold skin. And in that fragile, terrifying moment, Ethan realized he had stepped onto a path he could never return. From the world outside thought he was invisible, broken, forgotten, yet now he held a secret that could burn the galaxy. The lock on the door hissed louder, sparks flickering at the edges. Whoever stood outside was forcing their way in. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He had faced war before, but this was different. Back then he had a squad beside him. Now there was only Lyra, the strange silver-skinned being with warmth in her touch. "Move back," she whispered, her voice sharp but calm. She placed her glowing hand on the wall, and a panel slid open that Ethan had never seen before. Inside was a narrow maintenance shaft, dark and dusty. How do you know about that?" Ethan asked, startled. "I scanned the building when I arrived," Lyra answered quickly. "This is our only way out." The door shook violently, metal groaning. Ethan didn't argue further. He grabbed his cane, but Lyra took his arm firmly. "No time for that," she said, and before he could protest, she lifted him, her strength far greater than her slender frame suggested. Ethan gritted his teeth, embarrassed. "I can still walk." "Not fast enough," she replied, her silver eyes glowing brighter. "And speed is survival." The door burst open just as Lyra pulled Ethan into the shaft. A red beam cut across the room, scorching the walls where they had been standing. Seconds ago, the masked agents stepped inside, their boots thudding heavily. Ethan clung to Lyra as she moved swiftly through the shaft. The walls were tight, the air thick with dust, his heart hammered in his chest. He could hear the agents behind, them scanning, hunting. "They'll find us," Ethan muttered, fear creeping into his voice. "No," Lyra whispered, her voice steady. "Not if we keep moving." The shaft opened into an old storage chamber deep beneath the building. Pipes lined the ceiling, dripping water. The smell of rust and oil filled the air. Lyra set Ethan down gently, her silver skin gleaming in the dim light. Ethan steadied himself with his cane, his mind racing. "How long do you think we can run? They've got drones, scanners, weapons." Lyra stepped close, her gaze intense. I won't let them take you, Ethan. You chose to protect me, and now I will protect you. Her words made him pause. No machine had ever spoken like that. Not. With such certainty, it wasn't a line of programming, it was a promise. Before Ethan could reply, a high-pitched whir filled the chamber. A drone swooped down from the pipes above, its red eye glowing. Lyra reacted instantly. She leapt forward, her arm snapping out. A beam of blue light shot from her palm, striking the drone. It exploded. In sparks crashing to the floor, Ethan stared in shock. You're armed? Lyra's silver face was unreadable. I was designed for more than assistance. Ethan's mouth went dry. The government hadn't sent him an assistant. They had sent him a weapon. Lyra grabbed his hand, pulling him deeper, into the tunnels. The sound of more drones echoed behind them. They know we're here, she said. We must reach the lower levels before they corner us. They ran. Or rather, Lyra ran, while Ethan tried to keep up with her, pulling him along. His legs trembled, every step sending pain shooting up his body, but adrenaline kept him moving. Finally, they reached a service elevator. Old, rusty, but still functional. Lyra forced the door open and pulled Ethan inside. She pressed her palm against the control panel, and with a faint hum, the elevator groaned to life, descending into the shadows. Ethan leaned against the wall, sweat dripping down his face. Why me, Lyra? He asked, his voice heavy. You could have gone anywhere. You could have hidden with anyone. Why choose me? Lyra turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Because no one watches you, Ethan. To the world you are invisible. That makes you the perfect shield. Her words cut deep. He hated the truth in them, yet at the same time, there was something else in her tone. Not mockery, but sorrow, as if she wished he wasn't invisible. The elevator rattled to a stop. The doors opened into a massive underground tunnel, long abandoned. Rusty tracks stretched into the darkness. Lyra helped Ethan out, scanning the shadows carefully. This will lead us beyond the city grid, she said. If we reach the exit, the council's scanners won't track us. Ethan adjusted his cane, his voice bitter. And if we don't? Lyra's gaze hardened. Then they'll capture us both, and neither of us will leave alive. The sound of metal footsteps echoed from behind. The agents had found the shaft, their red visors glowing in the distance. Run! Lyra hissed, pulling Ethan forward. They stumbled along the tracks, Ethan's legs burning with pain. His chest heaved with every breath, but he pushed on. Not because he wanted to, but because Lyra's grip on his arm was steady, warm, alive. Suddenly, a beam shot past them, striking the tunnel wall. Dust and sparks rained down. Ethan nearly fell, but Lyra held him upright. She turned, her hand glowing again, and fired back. Blue energy slammed into the tunnel, forcing the agents to scatter. Keep moving, she shouted. Ethan forced his legs to obey. His cane clicked against the ground, his body screaming. But he didn't stop. For the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving. He was fighting. As they disappeared deeper into the tunnel, Lyra's whisper reached his ear. They will not stop until I am destroyed, but if you stay with me, Ethan, you will see truths the galaxy has hidden for centuries. Ethan stumbled, his heart pounding. Truths? What kind of truths? Lyra's glowing eyes met his in the dark. The kind that will change everything you thought you knew about being human. And with those words, the chase truly began. Not just through tunnels, but into secrets far bigger than Ethan could ever imagine. The tunnels stretched endlessly before them. Dark and damp, Ethan's chest heaved with each step. His cane clicked against the old tracks, sometimes slipping on the rust. He wanted to stop, to rest, but Lyra's grip on his arm kept him moving forward. Her hand was warm, almost burning, now, as if fire flowed beneath her silver skin. Finally, they ducked into a maintenance alcove, shadows wrapping around them. Lyra pressed her ear against the wall, listening. Her eyes glowed faintly, scanning the vibrations. After a tense silence, she whispered, "We have a moment. The agents are still searching the upper tunnels." Ethan collapsed onto an old crate, sweat dripping down his face. His whole body trembled. He had pushed himself. Beyond his limits, he felt the ache in his bones, the weakness in his legs, and yet he hadn't given up, not with her pulling him along. Lyra crouched in front of him, her face calm but serious. "You cannot keep this pace much longer. Your body is failing." Ethan barked a dry laugh. "Thanks for the reminder, Doc. I already know I'm falling apart." But Lyra didn't smile. Instead, she placed her hand on his chest right above his heart. The heat from her palm seeped into him, easing the pain for a moment. His breathing slowed, and his muscles relaxed. "What are you doing?" he asked. Startled, "My core releases warmth. Biological energy fused with mechanical systems," she said softly. "It heals. It comforts. It was meant to bond with humans during service." Ethan frowned. "Bond? You mean, like a medical tool?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "No, Ethan. Something deeper. My design was not just to assist humans, but to connect with them, to share energy, to keep them alive even when their own strength was gone." Her words sank into him like heavy stones. He stared at her, disbelief written across his face. "That's insane. You're saying you're half alive?" She nodded, her glowing eyes steady. "Inside me is a heated core, a fusion of alien tissue and machine. It grows, it breathes, it feels. That is why I am warm. That is why I whisper in sleep, and that is why the Council wants me destroyed. Because I am proof that the line between life and machine no longer exists." Ethan's throat went dry. He remembered the war, the endless soldiers who died, the prosthetics that failed to replace what they lost. If something like Lyra had existed back, then how many lives could have been saved? "You're telling me," Ethan said slowly, "that inside you is something that could change everything, for humans and for aliens." "Yes," Lyra whispered, "and they fear that change." Ethan leaned back against the wall. His mind, spun with thoughts, fear, and awe. For years he had hated his body, broken and weak. Now, sitting before him was a being who carried life and technology together in perfect balance, a miracle the galaxy wanted erased. He stared at her glowing eyes, his voice rough. "So what does this mean for me? Why drag me into this?" Lyra's hand lingered on his chest, her voice softened, almost like a confession. "Because your body is failing, Ethan, I can feel it. Your bones are brittle, your muscles weak, but my core, it can strengthen you. It can share my warmth with you, not just to comfort, but to heal." Ethan's eyes widened. "Heal? Are you saying you can fix me?" Lyra lowered her gaze. "Not completely, but I can give you strength you thought you lost. If we bond, my core will share energy with your body. It will allow you to stand longer, walk further, even fight." Ethan's heart pounded. The idea was madness, becoming part of a machine. But hadn't he already been half dependent? On tech, relying on canes, on medical aids, on machines that kept him alive? What was the difference if this one felt alive? Before he could answer, a faint echo drifted through the tunnels. Metallic footsteps. Closer now. Lyra's head snapped toward the sound. Her eyes flared bright. "They're near," she whispered. "If we don't move, they will corner us." Ethan pushed himself up, leaning heavily on his cane. His legs screamed in protest. He stumbled, nearly falling. But Lyra caught him, her arms strong and steady. Her warmth flowed into him again. "You can't keep running like this," she said firmly. "You must decide. Trust my core, or we will not survive." Ethan's eyes locked on hers, glowing silver with hints of something deeper, something alive. His breath shook. The agents' voices echoed closer, their scanners sweeping the tunnels. He thought about his life. Years of weakness, of being forgotten, of watching the world move forward without him. He thought about Lyra. Warm, alive, hunted, and yet still choosing to protect him. "Finally," he whispered. "Do it." Lyra's lips parted slightly, her expression softening. "You're sure?" "I don't have much left to lose," Ethan muttered. "But maybe, with you, I can gain something back." Lyra placed both hands on his chest now, her eyes closed, and a soft glow spread from her palms into his body. Ethan gasped as warmth flooded through him, deeper than any medicine, stronger than any machine. His legs tingled, his chest loosened. His cane slipped from his hand as his body grew lighter. He stood, without falling, without pain. His knees shook but held firm. He looked down at himself in disbelief. I'm standing. Lyra opened her eyes, smiling faintly. You are bonded now, Ethan. My core shares its strength with you, but remember, this makes you part of my secret too. If they find us, they will destroy us both. Ethan flexed his fingers, feeling power he hadn't known in years. For the first time since the war, he didn't feel broken. He felt alive, and in that moment, as the footsteps grew louder, Ethan realized something terrifying and exhilarating. He was no longer just hiding with Lyra. He was now bound to her, body and soul, and together, they would have to fight. The echo of boots grew louder in the tunnel, steady and cold. Red lights flickered against the walls as the agents closed in. Ethan's heart raced, but for the first time in years, his body did not betray him. His legs felt stronger, his arms steadier. Warmth from Lyra's core pulsed through him like a second heartbeat. Lyra pulled him close, her silver eyes glowing bright. They are almost here, she whispered. But you are not the same man you were yesterday. Stand with me, Ethan. He nodded, though fear still gripped his chest. He picked up his cane, not because he needed it, but because it felt like an anchor, a reminder of who he had been before this moment. The shadows shifted and the first agent stepped into view, armored from head to toe, visor glowing red. He raised a weapon that hummed with energy. Target located. His mechanical voice rang. Out. Surrender the prototype. Ethan's instincts screamed to back away, but Lyra moved in front of him, her silver frame shielding him. Her voice was calm but firm. You will not have me. Blue light burst from her palm, colliding with the agent's weapon in a crackle of sparks. The tunnel shook with the impact. Ethan staggered but kept his balance. His body wanted to collapse, but the warmth inside him refused to let him. Another agent charged from the side, swinging a blade of crackling energy. Ethan reacted before he thought. His cane snapped upward, blocking the strike. The force sent pain through his arm, but his legs didn't buckle. His eyes widened in disbelief. He was fighting, really fighting. With a growl, he shoved back, his body moving with strength he hadn't felt since before the war. Lyra finished the attack, slamming her glowing fist into the agent's chest. The armor dented, sparks flew, and the figure dropped to the ground, twitching. Ethan gasped, staring at his own hands. I didn't fall, he muttered. I actually stood my ground. Lyra turned to him quickly, her face serious. This is only the beginning. We must move now. More are coming. She grabbed his hand, and together they sprinted deeper into the tunnel. Their footsteps echoed, mixing with the shouts of agents behind them. For years, Ethan had limped through life, dragging his body like dead weight. But now he ran, his breath sharp, his body alive. The tunnel opened into a wide cavern, ancient tracks stretching into darkness. An old transport train sat rusting in the corner, long abandoned. Lyra pulled him toward it. We can power this. It will take us to the outskirts. Ethan frowned. That relic, it hasn't moved in decades. Lyra's silver lips curved faintly. Trust me. She pressed her glowing hand against the side panel. Sparks danced as old circuits came alive. The trains, lights flickered weakly, then hummed to life. Doors creaked open. Inside, Lyra urged. Ethan climbed aboard, his legs shaky but holding. Lyra followed, sealing the door behind them. The engines roared, dust falling from the ceiling as the train lurched forward, but before they could relax, a sharp clang echoed on the roof. Drones swarmed from above, attaching themselves to the metal shell. Their red eyes glowed through the windows. They won't let us go, Ethan muttered, gripping his cane tighter. Lyra's eyes flared bright. Then we fight together. The drones cut into the roof, sparks raining down. One broke through, dropping inside with a hiss, its bladed arms spun toward Ethan. For a heartbeat, fear froze him. Then warmth surged through his body. With a yell, Ethan swung his cane like a spear, smashing the drone against the wall. Metal cracked, wires sparked, the machine collapsed in a heap. He blinked, stunned. I did that. Lyra's voice was proud, strong. Yes, Ethan, that is your strength now. More drones burst through. Their high-pitched whirs filled the cabin. Lyra moved like lightning, her hands glowing as she struck them down. Ethan fought beside her, clumsy but unyielding. Each strike of his cane carried power he thought he had lost forever. The train screeched around a bend, throwing sparks as it rattled on the rusted tracks. Agents chased on hover platforms, firing beams that scorched the walls. Lyra smashed through, a window firing her own blast back. Blue light collided with red, explosions lighting the dark tunnel. Ethan braced himself, the train rocking violently. "They're not going to stop, Lyra," he shouted. "Not until you're gone." Lyra turned to him, her face calm despite the chaos. "Then we must give them a reason to fear." She pressed her hand against his chest again, warmth surging through him, stronger than before. His legs no longer trembled. His grip on the cane was firm. For the first time in years, Ethan felt whole. The last drone lunged, Ethan met it head-on. His cane smashed through its eye, sending it crashing into the floor. Sparks exploded, filling the air with smoke. The train roared out of the city tunnels into open night, stars glittering above. Ethan collapsed into a seat, his chest heaving. Lyra sat beside him, her silver skin glowing in the dim light. He turned to her, voice rough but steady. "I should be terrified, but right now, I feel alive." Lyra's gaze softened. "That is what my core was meant to do, Ethan. Not just heal the body, but remind the soul what it means to live." Ethan stared out the cracked window at the endless night. His life of silence and shadows was over. He was no longer invisible, no longer broken. He was part of something greater, something the galaxy would not ignore. And as the train sped into the unknown, Ethan realized the truth. He wasn't just escaping with Lyra anymore. He was fighting with her, side by side, against a galaxy that wanted her erased. The night outside was endless. The old train raced across rusted tracks, sparks flying from its wheels. The stars above looked cold and far away, but inside the dim cabin, warmth pulsed between two lives. One human, one almost human. Ethan sat beside Lyra, still catching his breath. His body ached, but it was a new kind of pain. Earned, not forced. His legs held strong, his hands were steady, and for once, he didn't feel like a ghost in a world that had forgotten him. "How far till we're clear?" he asked, glancing toward the cracked window. Lyra's silver fingers tapped into the train's old control panel, light flickering under her touch. "Just beyond the canyon, there's an old comm station, abandoned since the last border war. If we reach it, I can send out a signal to the underground." Ethan raised a brow. "Underground?" She nodded. "There are others who believe I shouldn't be erased, scientists, rebels, even aliens who oppose the Council's control. If we reach them, we have a chance." Ethan leaned back, the train rattling beneath them. "And if we don't? Then, this becomes our last ride," she said simply. Before Ethan could reply, a deep boom echoed through the air. The train shook violently, metal screeching. Lyra leapt to her feet, eyes glowing. Ethan struggled up, grabbing a nearby pipe for balance. "What now?" Lyra moved to the rear cabin, opening the back hatch. Wind roared in, and through the night sky Ethan saw them. Dark shapes flying fast, armored agents on hover platforms, lights blazing, weapons locked. "They found us," she said, voice calm but tight. "They're bringing the final wave." The lead platform fired, a red beam slicing across the train's hull, exploding in sparks. Lyra ducked, then fired back, blue energy lighting the sky. Ethan moved beside her, heart pounding. "We hold them off together," she said. "If we can survive 3 more minutes, we'll reach the station." Ethan nodded, gripping his cane. The warmth in his body burned brighter now, not from fear, but from purpose. The air filled with shrieking engines and exploding light. Drones swooped in from above, agents jumping onto the train with metallic thuds. The roof groaned under their weight, Lyra launched herself up, grabbing the edge and pulling herself onto the roof. Ethan hesitated, then followed, his legs stronger than ever before. Wind whipped against his face, stars spinning above. A masked agent rushed toward him, blade drawn. Ethan met him without fear, parrying with his cane. Then he ducked low and slammed the weapon into the agent's knee joint. The attacker fell hard, rolling off the train, swallowed by the night. 2 more agents dropped in, surrounding Lyra. Their weapons crackled with energy, but she moved like light, her body fluid, striking with glowing fists. Each hit released a burst of heat, melting armor and disabling circuits. One agent lunged at Ethan, pinning him against a vent. The red glow of a scanner stared into his eyes. "Return the prototype," the voice hissed. Cold and inhuman, Ethan growled, "She's not a prototype," and drove his cane upward into the agent's chest. The impact sent sparks flying, and the agent crumpled at his feet. The train screeched as it approached the canyon bridge, the old rails swaying under the weight. Lyra jumped back down and reached for Ethan. "We're almost there, but they won't stop. They'll destroy the train before they let us escape." Ethan wiped blood from his lip, breathing hard. "Then we make our stand right here." Lyra hesitated, her glowing eyes studying his face. "You've changed, Ethan," she said softly. "You're no longer hiding." He nodded, gripping her hand. "And you're no longer alone." They turned as a massive drone hovered into view, larger than the others, cannons spinning on each side. It locked onto the train's engine, charging its main weapon. "If it hits the engine, we derail," Lyra warned. "And we die." Ethan looked around, then pointed to the signal tower ahead, just past the bridge. "Can you jump there?" Lyra followed his gaze, calculating. "Yes, but you can't." "I'll slow it down," Ethan said, jaw tight. "You send the signal, you tell the galaxy who you are." She grabbed his shoulder. "No, Ethan, I won't leave you. You're not leaving me," he said with a weak smile. "You're saving everything." A red blast lit the sky, the drone ready to fire. Lyra stared at him for one more heartbeat, then leaned close and whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." Then she leapt, soaring through the air, light trailing behind her like a comet. She landed on the signal tower with a roll, disappearing into the shadows. The drone fired, and Ethan charged, climbing onto the top of the train's engine. He lifted his cane high, light bursting from it. Lyra's warmth still burning inside. "Hey, you metal freaks," he shouted into the wind. "Come and get me." The beam hit, but not the train, not the station. It hit the engine's top where Ethan stood, a blast of fire, a storm of light. Then silence, later. The signal reached every corner of the hidden net. Humans, aliens, rebels, all heard it. "My name is Lyra. I was built to serve, but I chose to live, and a human chose to believe in me. We are not machines, we are more, and we will not be erased." Deep in the ashes of the broken train, something shimmered. Ethan's cane, still glowing faintly with her warmth. And somewhere, far away, a new movement began. One built not just on survival, but on hope. Together they had lit a fire the galaxy could no longer ignore.